Yes, you read that title correctly, and no, I'm not condoning Marinette's actions in the show, nor am I condoning Cat Noir's actions. All I'm saying is that from a storytelling perspective, her creepy tendencies can be a good thing. Let me explain. But first, hello everyone, my name's Ayla Bell, and boy, you guys went hard on those Marinette creepy/obsessive examples. My goodness. You all showed up so quickly to that community post as if your whole lives were leading up to that moment. Seriously, thank you all for your help. You gave me the exact ammo I needed for this video. I'll give you all a shout out at the end as to not bring this video to a grinding halt. Anyway, you all can think of this video as a follow-up or part 2 in a sense to my first Adrienette video. So yes, as someone who exists outside of the Miraculous Ladybug fandom, I've heard tales far and wide of Marinette's stalkerish behavior when it comes to her crush on Adrien. I've heard things here and there about what she's done, but now I have a compiled list of offenses to declare to the entire world. Preparing gifts for every event in Adrien's life, including his next 35 birthdays, followed him to Shanghai by deceiving her parents and taking advantage of their kindness, smelled his pillow, sabotaged props in Adrien's photo shoot so she'd be called to help him, somehow obtaining the information to his full schedule for the next 3 years without his consent, confessing to what she thought was a wax statue of Adrien and going on a long, uncomfortable soliloquy about her planned future with him and plucking off a strand of his hair and smelling him, all while in a public space. Sure, she thought she was alone, but still, shirking her responsibilities to take care of children to be with Adrien, attempts to sabotage Adrien's chances with another girl, both prompted and unprompted, broke into or invited herself to Adrien's house multiple times without consent and even abused her powers to do it at least once, stole his phone to delete a picture and or voicemail, puts down girls who are into Adrien, including but not limited to public humiliation, too many pictures of him in her room, memorized Adrien's ad, took away a friend's opportunity to participate in a tournament in order to be with Adrien, screwed over Chloe because she was jealous of Kagami and Adrien, which led to an avalanche of other problems such as Fu getting discovered and every hero at the time, minus Ladybug and Cat Noir getting discovered while also contributing to Chloe's development going down the drain, seeing Adrien's discomfort from her jokes but proceeding to continue joking anyway, joining fencing club just to be with Adrien, digging in the garbage for a love letter, only changing her opinion on someone because Adrien likes that person, getting a fireman to help her break into Adrien's house, dragging Kagami along to Adrien's shoot seemingly to get Adrigami back together but actually taking the time to drool over Adrien, putting down Cat Noir just to make Adrien seem better by comparison, offering Adrien 2 different Miraculous at 2 different times. Yes, one of these wasn't Adrien, but she didn't know that. Makes a macaroon for him every week without giving it to him. Invaded the privacy of a friend's phone to spy on her supposed conversations with Adrien. Used her phone to track down Adrien. Learning the exact location of his room in his mansion. Pushed Adrien as a guitarist instead of Luca when Adrien can't even play guitar. Still loves and fawns over Adrien while dating Luca. Planned on abusing her Miraculous in order to help Adrien, but in reality to keep him near her. And big special shout out to Mari's circle of friends who encourage this behavior and even come up with plans on the same level as Mari's sketchiness. I'm honestly impressed by how extensive this list is, but also massively disappointed in the missed opportunity here. More on that later. And yes, we'll get to you in a moment, Cat Noir. As for Mari, look, I get it. Intense crushes can get you to do crazy things. Heck, I was a teenage girl once. I had a big crush on one guy for nearly 7 years straight. Like Mari, I was too shy to confess, but admittedly, I also had something working against me in the form of parental units probably not allowing me to date at the time. In retrospect, that was probably for the best, but let's get back on track. Like Mari, my friends encouraged my crush and we'd get into harebrained schemes in order to get my crush to notice me or get us in situations together. There was a lot of talking with my crush's friends to see how he felt about me, sending one of my friends to be an undercover agent of sorts by befriending my crush and giving me important intel, covertly giving drawings to my crush, giving him notes to meet me in a certain place and time, but then I chickened out at the last moment, finding out his birthday but doing absolutely nothing about it, keeping track of where he'd be during lunch and nutrition. This was earlier on in the crush. The list goes on. Yes, it was cringy, but don't any of you tell me you didn't do something stupid to get your crush to notice you or hang out with you when you were a teenager or adolescent. Sure, some of you actually have the courage to talk to your crush, but people like me in Chi-Town couldn't just do that. We had to get crafty or else no progress would get made. The difference between Mari and I was that I don't think I ever took it too far. I never tried to sabotage my crush's relationships with other girls. I didn't keep pictures of him or any of his personal belongings with me. I didn't steal his property or break into his house. I didn't memorize his full schedule or plan for future birthdays. I'll give this to Marinette. She has impressive levels of audacity to her. Another difference is that my crush actually knew I had a crush on him. Because teens and adolescents can't keep their mouths shut, a detail that is super misrepresented in Miraculous. Seriously, the fact that no one in Mari's class told Adrien about her crush is truly one of the most unrealistic things in this show. It didn't take long for my crush to find out, and boy, this guy had fantastic patience with me. He knew I was shy and tolerated my shenanigans. He even befriended me, to my total surprise. Heck, even if no one told him, I'm sure my actions were obvious enough for him or his friends to notice me. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that I get what the writers were intending to do with Marinette in regards to her crush on Adrien. The problem is its execution. And before I elaborate on that further, please be a dear and hit that like button so that YouTube can spread this video to more people. And if you're still watching, put a love letter emoji in the comments. Thank you! Now, let's really think about what the problem is here. The real problem isn't that Marinette does these things. I mean, yeah, it is a problem as far as human decency goes, but it's not the problem. The problem is that there's no development around this character flaw of hers. There's also a lack of self-awareness as well as a lack of reprimanding. Regarding the self-awareness, you could make the argument that Mari does know what she is doing is creepy, because when Adrien came to her house, she made the effort to hide her pictures of him. But based on how scenes like this play out, this is less awareness of one's creepy tendencies and more, I don't want him to read my diary kind of energy, if that makes sense. It's more than I don't want to be embarrassed and not I know what I'm doing is wrong and I don't want him to know kind of thing. The show is trying to convince us that the things she does are cute and quirky, not weird and problematic, and that's, well, problematic. On the flip side, Cat Noir does get some flack in canon about his behaviors, as Ladybug does tell him both verbally and with non-verbal cues that she is not interested, and she even berates him when he goes too far. He does seem to feel and learn from consequences sometimes, but from what I hear, the development is inconsistent, which is a problem. While we're at it, let's go down the list of Cat's faults. Spends way too long looking at Ladybug's photos, tries to kiss her multiple times without consent, gives Ladybug the cold shoulder when she's interested in someone else as if he's entitled to her, continues to try to kiss her even when she made it clear she's into someone else, calls Ladybug a pet name she doesn't like even after she tells him to stop, expects Ladybug to come to a dinner he prepared even when she said she probably can't make it and proceeds to get mad at her when she didn't come, gets angry and refuses to help when Ladybug rejects him, sometimes prioritizes flirting over more important matters, just generally not accepting no as an answer and not taking her feelings into account. This one's kind of iffy, but only dating and confessing to Mari because she's Ladybug. The periodic tell don't show of this cartoon really hurts him here. Still in love and thinking about Ladybug while dating Kagami, tries to get someone akumatized to spend time with Ladybug, and was a little too happy to ditch Kagami to be with Ladybug. While not as extensive as Mari's, it's still not great. Cat, as opposed to Mari, at least has a little bit of an excuse for why he doesn't understand boundaries, given his social isolation for a good chunk of his life, as well as his only peer example growing up being Chloe, who very often refused to respect his personal space. You could make the argument that Mari hasn't been in love before, so maybe she doesn't know how to properly express herself with this totally new sensation, which is fair enough, I suppose, but Regardless of reasoning, what Cat does to Ladybug is still morally not okay. But speaking of Mari, I know many people don't see her as a good role model because of her stalkerish obsessive behaviors, which, fair, especially in the current iteration of the show where no one in canon seems to have a problem with what she does. But consider this. Many people in the real world do actually have problems with social cues, maladaptive behaviors, and boundaries. If Mari, and Adrien for that matter, in canon, had their actions recognized by other characters as bad and they learned from consequences, I think that kind of development would be cool, engaging to watch, and beneficial. After all, we don't want role models who are perfect and squeaky clean. We want role models who have overcome and grew stronger because of what they've gone through and who have learned from past mistakes. In other words, we want role models who go through human experiences. Imagine, with me for a second here, how much more powerful this would have been as a show instead of what we have in canon, in which everyone and their mothers, except for villains and antagonists, cheer on Marinette and even encourage and enable her bad behavior. No, none of that. Teach real consequences and real growth. This easily could have been a show about Marinette's development in respecting people, their space, and their choices, and learning to tolerate things that don't go her way, and move on to something more productive and healthy. Similarly, we could have had Adrien as Cat Noir, learning the exact same lesson, and ultimately have the two of them help each other by learning from each other's mistakes. At the end of the day, the both of them have an unhealthy attachment and attraction to the other that even if they did get together, realistically, it would be a dumpster fire since neither truly respects the other or even themselves for that matter. Notice how they put themselves down often enough and think the other is too good or even perfect. Personally, if I were in charge of this and absolutely had to include their not okay behaviors, I would go the Toradora route here and have the two of them not only progressively learn that their actions and obsessions aren't okay, but I'd also have them grow closer and more organically with their other love interests, Mari with Luca and Adrien with Kagami. And in this scenario, Kagami would be okay with Adrien's goofy side, unlike in Lies, during which she called him out for acting like a clown. Mari and Adrien would progressively become more remorseful about how they've treated the object of their obsession and would progressively back off and treat them with more respect. Meanwhile, their relationships with Luca and Kagami would flourish, and they would eventually figure out that they much more cherish their time in relationships with those two rather than their obsessions. And slowly but surely, Mari would have a healthy friendship with Adrien and Cat Noir with Ladybug as the two get over their initial crushes and grow to be more mature people who officially understand what a healthy romantic relationship looks like. Another important lesson could be learned from this. Just because you have a crush on someone doesn't mean they have to end up with you. This would have been such a mature route for the show to go, and the fact that the writers aren't self-aware enough to do something like this bugs me. Though, to be fair, Miraculous isn't over yet, so maybe, just maybe, they'll write Mari and Adrien to grow and develop out of these habits, and they'll be more mature for it. Nevertheless, in canon, I still don't think Mari should be with Adrien, despite the show trying to convince us otherwise. Until she stops seeing him as perfect, and until he can learn boundaries, it's just a bad idea. But what do you guys think? Do you think Mari and Cat Noir's behavior could have been written well if it contributed to character development? Comment below and let's get this conversation started. Big shout out to these guys for letting me know all about Marinette and Cat Noir's shenanigans. I apologize in advance for saying any names wrong. Crossfire 34, Gabai, Boa G, Usui Takumi's husband, Crystal Clear 145, Strawberry Pie, Sky Dragon Slayer, Creature, Naru Witch Fan 945, Bisits Matt 8, Walking Armageddon, Ruby X Wolf Girl, Amira Smith, Chase Tosher, Kevin the Prince Dragon, Anna Maria Cajudo Hernandez, CB, GM Epic, Jaden Williams, Pink Punk, Vivian Morgan, Fire Rose, Alpha Pathetic, Aries Rivera, Mr. DNC 123, Chloe Edits, Reamer God, Enigma Prince, That Nobody, Super Shauna 97, Smile Girl 164, C Ford, Silver Shadow, Elo It's M, Mia More, Auditect, Hooded Rary, Jenny Crosby, Everything Gaming, Draws Felix, Sophie Gerlofs, Gabriella Duplessis, Biyumgi Universe, Lumara Haven, Thunderbro, HC's Chanel, Vanny Nguyen, Sniffy the Lovable Cookie, Elena Sakura, Suki no Nico, Rebecca Flynn, A Circus Clown, Flora Angel, Quicksilver YT, TJ Evie, Najima Abdi, Seville Alieva, Ow5, Miyu Kawasaki, Yasha Sweeney China Preddy, May Hatsume, Emerald, Rhodey Stafford, Asima Abdul, Eye of Weirdness, Kayela Forever, Mistress Fearless, Freighter CR, Johan Seifried, Adri Zoe Forevermore and Sugar Sock Beyond MLPFIM, Royale Wolf, Chase Ha Wing, Sailor Polaris, Ventus Anime Girl, Miraculous and Art Lover, Draws Felix, Sierra Scott, It's Snowflake Plays, Not Key, and Sarah Emily White. Thank you everyone who took the time out to educate me. You're awesome. As for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.